Hello, everyone. So today we are going to be talking about Rondreiz Jr. Phillips. Jr. is not his middle name. I think that's like kind of his nickname. I just wanted to point that out. So if I end up calling him Jr., it's just because I have a harder time pronouncing his name, and I tried to look up how to pronounce it, and I couldn't really find anything except like a Dutch version, and I don't think it's the same thing. So I really do apologize if that's wrong. I was saying it in my head, Rondreiz. I'm trying to like enunciate, but I have my accent is a little weird. So if I end up calling him Junior, that is considered a nickname. But like I said, I'm pretty sure he's not a junior, and um, it's not his middle name. So I just want to put that out there real fast. So, like I said, we were talking about a missing little boy who is still missing to this day. This case, or this video, I should say, will definitely be on the shorter side just because I did have. Well, I found a lot of articles, but it was basically regurgitating the same information. They just don't know. So there's no information to put out. Now, the police could be working on stuff behind the scenes and not come out with anything, but they haven't come out with anything since, he went missing back in 2018. So I just wanted to let you know that this will probably be on the shorter side because of that. But all of the links will be down below. I will also have phone numbers down below where you can, if you have tips or if you have any information about this case, you can get a hold of the police and all of that stuff. So that will be down below. But let's go ahead and get to it. So 2022 marked 4 years since 4-year-old Rondreiz Jr. Phillips vanished from his home in Claiborne Parish, which is in Lisbon, Louisiana. His family called 911 around 11:30 a.m. that morning on April 15, 2018, and told officers he was last seen playing outside in front of their home in the 100 block of Howard Road in Lisbon. His mom, Sheila Phillips, was inside and her boyfriend, Nicholas Gilbert, was working on his truck nearby. They told police they thought Junior was at his aunt's house next door, and they went to go check, and he wasn't there, and they have not seen him since. So when I read this right off the bat, I got a little weird. I got a weird vibe. The boy's 4 years old, and maybe they think they're in that neighborhood where it's safe. Let them play. The thing is, we don't live in a safe world. And I just can't imagine letting your 4-year-old son play in the front yard and not watch them. Now, I don't know where Nicholas was. I assume he's probably working in a driveway or a garage. So I don't know. It just said in the front of their house, like in the yard in front of their house. I don't know how big that was. I couldn't find like actual photos. I don't know if he was working in a garage, had his back turned, maybe checked on him every so often. And so it really struck me as weird because I just don't know anybody personally that would let their children just run free in their front yard when they're not watching them closely. But hey, maybe different family, different parents, a different situation. So I definitely struck me as weird. But then let's just continue. Um, so local law enforcement and volunteers searched for days, and I will say that they did some incredible investigating for this case. It was really nice to see the turnout. Rivers divers searched nearby ponds. The Louisiana State Police joined the investigation, and later so did the FBI. Nicholas Gilbert actually took a lie detector test within days of Junior's disappearance so that he wouldn't be looked at as a suspect. And he says, quote, "I took a lie detector test. I volunteered to do it because all these different folks trying to point the finger," end quote. Which I totally understand. Like, you love this child went missing, and everybody's just like, well, maybe you had a hand in it. So you just want to rule yourself out and say, I had nothing to do with that. Like, I completely understand. I think that is admirable. But at the same time, I think it's important that we remember that lie detector tests aren't always trustworthy, and you can, what's the word I'm looking for? You can, they, kind of manipulate them, is what I'm trying to say. Maybe this person is good at lying and it couldn't detect his lies. I'm just keeping an open mind. I know maybe I sound a little negative towards them. That's just what I'm saying. I just want to point that out. But I do think it's admirable that that he did volunteer to take that test. So Junior's aunt says the family feels someone has him and says, quote, something is not right. Yeah, something is not right. I just want my baby back. And he was last seen, by the way, wearing blue jeans, a white shirt, and yellow rubber boots. And it gets a little complicated from here on out because a month later, his mom was arrested on drug charges. And just because you do drugs does not mean you do something with your kid. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying they had a tough time. They lost their child, and then you're going to jail for drug charges. So I'm sure that was so unpleasant. She pled not guilty and was out of jail for the 1 year anniversary of his disappearance. And she says, quote, and this quote is so heartbreaking. She says, quote, I want to let him know I have not gave up on him, that I miss him, I love him. And she said that at a balloon release in his memory. That is just heartbreaking. I can't imagine being a mother and losing your 4-year-old child, then going to jail and just having to kind of sit there, and think of like what could have happened. Yeah, we're gonna continue on. So, and like, yeah, it took a toll on the family. And so Junior's sister, um, Shaquantal, I think, Sha- I believe it's Shaquantal Phillips. After a court appearance for her mom, she actually said, "quote barely sleeping, barely eating. You can't think right. It's not a normal life." Which, yeah, the average person won't know what it's like to lose someone and not have any answers. So I'm definitely feeling for this family. Okay, so I remember the point I wanted to make. So they said that they believed that he was at his aunt's house. This is a 4-year-old child playing in the front of your yard. If you thought he was at the aunt's house, which is across the street, it said, you're obviously not paying that close of attention. If you are one of you are inside, the one is working on a trunk. Oh, I think he's at his aunt's house. That tells me you're probably not paying it that much attention. And all it takes is a split second for something to happen. Wandering off. He just, God gets up, wanders off, goes to someone takes them. Uh, a lot of things could happen in a split second. And to me, honestly, the reason why I'm kind of suspicious of them is just for that alone. But being negligent doesn't mean that you're a murderer. So I just want to say that. But let's continue. Um, So there was actually a $10,000 reward offered for any new information about his disappearance. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children created and released an age progression photo in 2021 of what he would look like at age 7, and he would have turned 8 in November 2021. You are either seeing that photo now or you've already seen it multiple times. He's just an adorable child. It's so heartbreaking. So going on, we're gonna get a quote from the lead detective, Jay Perry. And he says, we have been as proactive as we can. It's been done all behind the scenes. Our goal is to get a definitive answer. We don't know what has become of him. All we can do is speculate. When you talk about a missing child, everybody has a soft spot for that. And that was a quote from Jay Perry, the lead detective on that case. And they were very proactive because in the days after he vanished, roadblocks were set up, a helicopter and drones were used to search by air, ponds were drained, hundreds of law enforcement officers from multiple agencies, firefighters, and volunteers were on foot, horseback, on ATVs, and they also had the help of canines, and they scoured the area. They went everywhere. And Perry actually goes on to say, I don't believe you could have asked for a better response. Like, that's an amazing response. In a lot of cases with minorities, you don't often see that kind of response within days of it happening. But he is right. People do have a soft spot for children, so it's amazing that they were proactive. I can commend that. Um, and they said that they were working behind the scenes, so maybe they have information that we don't know about, and they don't want to compromise the case, so they haven't said anything. That is always an option. But I'm almost done here, which is why I wanted to reiterate that we don't have a lot of information. So, and then they actually go on to say again, or J. Perry does, there are potential suspects, but none of them have been charged. Who was last near the boy? What happened? But again, we don't really have a suspect because we really don't know what has happened. We're committed to working on this until we find him. He deserves that. He is not forgotten. And he's not forgotten. He is remembered by his family, by the people working to solve his case, I'm sure by his community. And I think it's important that we talk about this because he's just a little child and we don't know what happened to him, and he needs to be with his family, and at the very least he needs to be able to be laid to rest if something, God forbid, ill will did happen. But if you have any new information, you can call the Claiborne Parish Sheriff's Office at 318-927-2011, and I will have that number on the screen towards the end of the video, and I will also have that in the description, so if anybody has any tips, please reach out and call them. I don't know if that reward is active still. It was when I was researching it, and I believe this article was around 2021, 2022, so just putting that out there. So, like I said, I think it's pretty obvious I was suspicious of Sheila and Nicholas, and I'm just not, especially when it comes to children, I'm really suspicious of the people that's close to the potential victim, or, you know, I think it really struck me as weird that they weren't keeping a better eye on him. And like I said, negligence doesn't mean you killed someone. And if it wasn't them, I'm sure this eats them up every single day. I'm sure they're probably like, I wish I was watching him. I wish I paid better attention. I wish I was out there. I'm sure this is something that really eats them up. I'm sure it hurts. And so I just want to say that I'm not like accusing them. It did strike me as weird, but just because something is weird doesn't mean it's nefarious. So they said there are potential suspects. I'm curious about who those potential suspects could be. If we know any of them, if it's anybody that's close that isn't, Sheila or Nicholas, maybe it's someone else. Um, Honestly, I don't really have anyone that I'm thinking of. I kind of think he either wandered off, or and someone picked him up, or maybe something happened to him. Or maybe it was just a random person, because sometimes that just happens. Sometimes it's just random people. And I know I'm not sure this is just statistics specifically, but I think most kidnappings and stuff, or whatever it is, I think most of it is, I believe it happens from someone I believe. But sometimes it's just random people. Sometimes it's just crime of opportunity. And maybe, like I said, he just wandered off. We might not ever know, but I certainly hope we do. I certainly hope that they've made more progress, even if they're not telling us about it. And I hope, if the family is listening to this, I hope you get the justice you deserve. And I'm sorry if I butchered your son's name um, in any way. I did not mean to. I'm very, very sorry, but I do hope you get the justice that you deserve and that he deserves, and he comes home to you one way or another. And we're all thinking of you, and your son is not forgotten. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. Like I said, links are in the description, so is that phone number. Again, it is 318-927-2011, and that is the Claiborne Parish Sheriff's Office if you have any tips. I am going to go. Thank you so much for listening to Rondreiz, or Junior's story, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.